What about the local lockdowns? We've been there's some talk about more local lockdowns, a traffic light system, and we see some parts of England. I mean, 25% of the entire country is currently facing stricter measures than the rule of six and the 10 p.m. curfew. But is there any evidence they actually work? Because in every single one of the areas where they've had local lockdowns for often weeks and weeks, even months on end, we see rising figures rather than falling figures, with the one exception of Luton.
Okay, Julia. So since April, the data is pretty clear. And this isn't modelling like Ferguson stuff. This is real world empirical data analysed to check the effect of lockdown. And almost without exception, there is no correlation. And this was published in The Lancet, and there's 5 published papers now. There's essentially no substantial connection between lockdown and outcomes of ICU and mortality. That's a reality. And 2 days ago, there's another publication, University of Edinburgh and Strathclyde, a team of 5, I think. And again, the same thing. The modelling was out by a factor of 12, and the lockdown is disassociated from real world impacts. So I don't know why the government isn't reading the 5 or 6 published papers that have actually done the analysis to answer this question and found pretty much the answer. There's no credible publication post hoc or after the event during the summer that has really claimed that lockdowns are in any way effective. And people got to remember, we have decades of science and even the WHO guidelines in 2019. And lockdowns are not part of the epidemic or pandemic response. They're clearly not.
What should we be doing? We're just sticking with washing our hands, socially distancing, wearing masks?
What would make sense is, I would say, what Sweden are doing, and in my mind, they are the gold standard for epidemic management. They had less impact per million than the UK. They're living effectively normally now, and even in the middle of the epidemic, they were just doing the traditional epidemic guidelines. Hands, distance, elderly, stay isolated as possible. So Sweden is the gold standard. Just look at the graphs and the data for Sweden for the past 2 months and look at the photos of how they're living. That's the gold standard. That's it.